I'm Brian Van, SportbikeTrackYou.com, and today we're going to break down the Lightech chain adjuster install on our 2018 STG GSX-R1000R project bike. Okay, the Lightech chain adjusters. I've heard some people refer to these as a cosmetic mod because, you know what, man, they do look that good on the bike, but they're way more than that. The race team that we work with and sponsor, Team M4X Suzuki, uses these on their superbike. I know that for a fact. Why do they use them on their superbike? Well, they eliminate the stock axle adjuster blocks as well as the axle adjuster screws, right? You have a lot of pieces there when you're changing the rear wheel. You've got the axle adjuster blocks, right? You got to deal with the adjuster screws themselves. Sometimes the jam nut, right, can be loose. By installing these, all those pieces are captured and you're left with just the chain adjusters that are now fixed to the swing arm. You have your axle that'll slide out, the nut, and the washer. That's it. It makes the wheel swap easier and cleaner. And it also allows you to adjust the chain much more easily and accurately. The adjuster screw on each side has a detent in it. Okay, so it's a very positive click. Also now, instead of the vague marks on a swing arm and an adjuster block, you actually have much more positive marks there. Let me get a flashlight out to kind of highlight that. Right, much more positive marks right there, and you can see the mark on the adjuster itself. Okay, so you know where you've got the axle from side to side. So easier, cleaner chain adjustment, easier wheel swaps. And then of course, on this bike, something I had issue with, and this happened twice to me, even though I would swear to God it was tight, the adjuster screw, I'd really moved the axle back quite a bit to get the bike to handle better. The jam nuts came loose twice. The screw itself was still tight and holding the axle adjuster block in the right position, but I caught it when I was putting my tire warmers on, so I went ahead and retorqued it and double checked everything. And that could be different if you're not checking it after every ride or every 20-minute session and you're street riding. So there are some real performance-oriented benefits that come along with this, as well as the cosmetic benefits. Another option available, if you want to lift your bike using, you know, a GP-style rear stand, okay, and you want to lift it from the hooks, they have a separate kit. These aren't included. We're showing them on here right now. I'm going to show you the install using these, and then of course the install without these, where you would still have spools here in the swing arm and use a standard spooled rear stand. But this is an option if you want to use it to lift the bike from the back of that axle adjuster with a GP style stand. This is the Woodcraft adjustable height, and you can see those engage perfectly with these Lightech lifters. So if you're interested in that combo, I would look into this stand to partner up with it, of course. If you like what you see and you want to watch the entire install, just stay tuned. We're going to show it right after this. Lightech chain adjusters. Okay, we did this on the R1, and it was a great mod for that bike. With the GSX-R1000, I can tell you right now, I've had 2 times when the jam nuts for the axle block adjusters, when I swore I had them adjusted and tight, perfect, where the nut actually came loose a little bit, okay? Just twice. I keep my eye on it after every session. I found it, retightened it, the axle never moved, but 2 times. And I know that the race team that we sponsor too, M4X Suzuki, they are using these on their super bikes because it's a high quality part. This is not just a cosmetic mod. This is a great mod, especially if you're using it as a track bike, a race bike. It helps you really dial in the chain adjustment, even from side to side, and also it eliminates the possibility of that jam nut coming loose. Now there's 2 ways you can set this up. If you're going to lift your bike using spools like this, you would just order the chain adjuster itself. It comes with all the bracketry and parts necessary to complete the installation. Now, if you want to lift it with a GP style rear stand, okay, this block would be replaced by this piece sold separately, so that you then have the hook off the back of the bike. You would use a different style stand. This is the upright for the Woodcraft GP style to lift it. So that is an option, okay? Most common is going to be leaving the spools on the bike and doing it this way. To facilitate the installation, you have to have a rear stand because we need to be able to pull the rear axle out of the bike so we can get the axle block adjusters, the adjustment screws out, and then that's going to allow us to install this. From there, we're able to put the axle back through and tighten everything up. Okay, let's go ahead and let's get the axle out of the bike. Gotta show you a cool little feature here with this Woodcraft stand. That's bitchin'. Just throw all the stuff right over there. Push our axle through. Pull it out the other side. Slide the axle over. Okay, now we need to loosen up the jam nuts. We're gonna remove these from the swing arm on both sides. You will not be reusing the axle adjuster blocks or these screws. Okay, we're going to start over here on the right side of the bike. Disassemble this. Like so. Okay, I'm going to make sure they're even on each side. Probably still going to have to move them right with the axle adjustment. Just want to begin with them even. Okay, to install it, this slides into the hole in the swing arm like so. We've got a fastener that's going to go right here to pinch this, pull it forward so it's square against the swing arm. And then we also have a bracket here on the back that's held in place with two fasteners to ensure that it's pinched against the swing arm. Need to install all that. I'm going to take this off right now because it's going to slide out of there and prepare the fasteners. I do want to use some thread locker on these. We're just going to go with medium strength. On our R1 video where we installed these, there was a recent comment, saying these are primarily cosmetic, and like I said, I disagree with that completely. This is way more. This is a very functional mod when you really get down to it. Slide that into position. These are also a great example of the quality of machining that you get from Lightech. There are out there copies of this available, okay, but you can get those copies pretty darn cheap. And if you do your homework, your research, you're going to find those copies also have a track record of failure. Now, this bracket, you can see it has these two locator tabs that come off of it. Let's see if Steve can come around back here. On the back of the swing arm, you can see they're machined in right there. So when you slide this in, it actually interacts there as they slide right in there, so that's in there real nice. Take the other two fasteners. Go ahead and get those started. Yeah, there's some places, some areas where you can save some money, right? It'll work out. Buying copycat Lightech chain adjusters, I would not recommend that as an avenue to save money. Okay, not if you like your bike. You get a chain adjuster that fails while you're riding, you could end up with a broken chain, wads up, breaks the case on the engine. I mean, there's nothing good that's going to come out of that. Okay, now what I've done is those are basically, they're seated, okay, but I backed them off just a little bit. So I'm going to put a little torque to the fastener here in the front and make sure we're pulling it all the way forward first. Once I've done that, I'll then come back and torque these. It's also recommended that periodically, especially after you first install something like this, you come back and double check the torque, say after your first session, right? If you're riding on the racetrack, you know, or if you're street riding, after your first ride. And then periodically after that, just to make sure everything is good. Now we'll go to the other side and install that one. All right, same gig. Slide that in. I'm using the medium strength thread locker. Go ahead and get this started. Then the bracket on the rear. It's a pretty basic job. I'm not going to show the chain adjustment portion. We've covered that a ton in other videos. Okay, so just go ahead and look for that if you're interested. Just installing these definitely makes that process easier, I'll say that. Okay, now we get the bracket here in the back. Same deal. This bracket looks a little different than the one on the other side did. It doesn't have those tabs that slide into the machine portions on the swing arm, right? It does interlock and interact with it in a similar manner, but you know, it doesn't slide in those two grooves the same way. Okay, snug that up here so it's held against the swing arm. You know, realistically, once you have the axle in place, everything is going to be held into position, okay? Because when the axle's in there, you're sandwiching everything, you're pulling it all inward, and then this can't move any further forward, okay? So realistically, these fasteners are just to, you know, kind of just hold it in place until you get everything snug. And then to ensure that, you know, it just doesn't move down the road, so even if you kind of leave the axle a little bit loose. Okay, now we're gonna get the axle ready to go back in. I like to clean and lube the axle each time. Then I take it out. That is Maxima MPPL right there. Just a real thin film. Just lay that back there. Okay, now we should be able to just lift the wheel. Slide that axle back through. Everything's lined up nicely. The axle is going to go back through like so. Okay. Use a little bit more MPPL right now. And what I'm going to do here, this is the actual washer. This would be my one criticism right now of Lightech. It doesn't say in the instructions whether or not you would be reusing the washer behind the nut, okay? What I like to do is, the reason I used a little MPPL on there is just to create a little bit of a slip plane here so that when you really tighten this all down, you have a little lubrication in case you don't mar up all the surfaces. Remember, we're not going to cover chain adjustment. We've done that before, so I want you to adjust your chain now, get that all dialed in so that's just right, okay? Once you've done that, we can go ahead and torque the axle. Something I like to do is I like to put something in between the chain and the sprocket on the drive side. It helps pull the axle all the way forward. Tap it a couple of times. That's just to make sure that it's seated. I believe the torque spec on this axle is 72.5 foot-pounds. Got out our torque wrench here. It is set for 72. I'm gonna snug this up. And you can see now that ran down just enough that it's engaging that mechanical thread locker. It's just engaging it. Okay, now that's going to complete the install if you're not going to use the GP style lifters, right? The additional part. And this is really the installation that most people would utilize, okay? The benefits you're picking up, easier chain adjustment. These pieces are all captured now when you do the wheel change, okay? All you have are the axle, the washer, and the nut. Everything else is captured, so it's a little faster, it's more accurate, and they also look super badass. In this video, I'm also going to take off these two brackets on the back, install these lifters, and show you how that works too. Okay, now I'm just going to run you through the process if you're going to install the GP style lifters. Okay, this is optional. Once again, they're not included with the chain adjuster. So instead of using these blocks that come with the chain adjuster, you're going to replace it with the GP style lifter blocks. And then you're going to need a different stand. You would not use a spooled stand for that, okay? Same fasteners. Put just a little more thread locker on these because definitely disturb that. Okay, now these are obviously different from side to side. You want to match them up so that you have the same one. You see that right here, the machining is identical to what we pulled off. The difference is the hook. Just go ahead and get that started. Grab the other one. The stand that we're going to use here is going to be the Woodcraft Superbike style stand. Okay, I have the uprights for that. I double checked the size of the lifters to make sure that they're going to interact with this correctly, and they are good to go. You know, realistically, what I'm doing here, this isn't what you would do during your own installation. Okay, you'd put these on at the same time that you're actually physically installing the lifters. I'm sorry, the chain adjusters. Okay, now we'll do the same on the other side. It's pretty basic. Just want to give you an idea of what it's going to look like, the stand that you would need to use, so on and so forth. Get them both seated, and then we can apply some torque. Okay, now once I've got these installed, I've got the spools removed, I converted my Woodcraft adjustable height rear stand to be a GP style or Superbike style lift stand. You can see how nicely, okay, the pieces that Eric designed engage there, right? And I hate to show people using something that's non-Woodcraft with Woodcraft, but everyone has different tastes. They have really nice lifters too that are independent pieces. These chain adjusters are really pretty cool. So if you want to do the GP style lift with the chain adjusters, I'll tell you right now, the interaction, the way this Woodcraft Superbike stand fits, I'm gonna give that 2 thumbs up for sure. And you can see, that's how it lifts the bike now. Kind of that MotoGP World Superbike Team M4 X-Star Suzuki look and feel with a high quality part that makes wheel swaps and chain adjustments easier. These are the Lightech chain adjusters installed on our 2018 Suzuki GSX-R1000R STG project bike.